Hi, I'm Rainer and welcome to my training room. So if you watch my last few videos, I've been working on kind of this area right down here on my lower level. I worked on some of the remote control or remote power for some of my switches, and I put a backdrop up there, and I worked on a few different background flats buildings for back there. So if you want to see those, take a look at my last few videos. But now I'm going to turn my attention to kind of the back part of my town scene here. And I don't have all my buildings that need to go in this town ready. I have a bunch more up on the shelf that I need to build, and those are going to be upcoming videos. But the area that's kind of behind the tracks in that farthest corner that's hardest to reach, I kind of have all the buildings built for what's going to go over there. For now, anyway. I've got two houses back there. I've got videos for both of those houses. They were some really cheap houses that I bought at train shows, built them, turned out really well. I've got my little gas station here, but I don't have the pumps or the sign up in front of it. And then I've got my train station. Now that train station is actually a station that I've had. It's a Walters kit, an old Walters kit that I've had on a couple of different layouts. I think I bought that kit probably 25 years ago and built it back then, and I've painted it, and so it's just kind of moved around, and I have lights in all of those buildings as well. But for now, what I've done for placement is it's just the brown painted plaster, a few trees stuck in there kind of as placeholders to give me a bit of the look I want. And then these roads, I just painted them on with some black acrylic paint just so I could figure out what it's going to look like. So what I think I'm going to do now is just temporarily remove all these buildings, because that corner is very awkward to reach, because I only have about 12 inches of gap here to reach in, and that's a long reach into that back corner. And for me to reach it, well, I actually need to get all these other buildings like my KFC and stuff out of the way. Otherwise, I'm just going to crush the buildings trying to reach the back corner. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these trees temporarily, remove these buildings, remove all those buildings back there, because I now know where they're going to be located. I can just unplug the lighting from underneath. And I'm going to actually kind of try to create my roadway. So I'm thinking of doing these two tracks here where I have a road crossing across the tracks and the street back there in the parking area for the train station. So I'm going to start working on those on the roadway. And then once I get the roadway in place, I'm going to be putting some static grass down in the yards and things like that to make it look like they have a lawn back there rather than a brown plaster yard. And the reason I need to start back there, of course, is because, well, to reach it, I need to reach over all of this. And because those buildings are kind of ready to go now, I think it's time to do the scenery around them, get the roads, the grass, the trees in there, and then put the buildings back in, so that when I start working on this front part, I won't need to reach over it again to work on that back part, because the tracks are really easy to reach from the front. If I have any issues, any derailments or anything like that, I can reach the tracks. It's just working on that scenery in that back corner is a long reach. So I'm going to try to get that kind of triangle back there closer to being completed. So it'll be the roads, the grass, and then I'm going to actually do some of the other scenery elements around the gas station, like the gas pumps and the sign and things like that. So that's what I'm going to start working on. I have no idea. Summertime here, I don't know how much time it's going to take me to do this, but hey, it's all going to come out on the video, so it's not going to take you nearly as long to watch it as it's going to take for me to do it. So anyway, I'm going to start working on this and see how this works out. So I recorded that part of the video July 4th, I think, and it is now July 30th. So this project has taken me longer than I expected. So I thought I better get a video out for you, because it's been a long time. And I did have a GoPro going for most of the steps of this process. And although I'm not completely done back there, I thought it'd be good to get this video out. So just thought I would go kind of summarize what I did, and started out by pulling out all the trees and removing the buildings. Now, I already had my basic plan for my road back there, done the same way I've done this. I just painted with some black acrylic paint right on the brown plaster. So I kind of knew where my road needed to go. And so I lifted all the buildings out, lifted the trees out, and then I put a little bit of masking tape around the front edges of the gas station and put that back in place because I wanted to be able to get the lot in front of the gas station to meet up evenly with the platform or the base of the gas station. So put a little bit of masking tape on that so I wouldn't get the plaster compound onto the gas station itself. And so put the gas station back in place and then mixed up some sheetrock 20. It's just a fast setting drywall compound, same stuff that I use for, covering my mountains and things like that. And I just mixed it a little bit thicker and put a layer of that down to create a base for my road to kind of build it up and put that in place. And then once that had set, I gave it a little bit of a sanding to take the ridges out of it. And then I put my houses back in place, but I put some masking tape in front of the doors of the houses, the garage doors of the houses, again, to try to protect the houses. And then I gave it a layer of this stuff, which is Liquitex flexible modeling paste. It's an acrylic medium. And I put a layer of that on top and spread it as smooth as I could to make kind of a surface for the road. And it will go down a lot smoother than the drywall compound. It takes a little bit longer to set, but I could smooth it fairly smooth. So I did that. Again, let it dry, pulled the houses out of there once it had set enough so that it wasn't going to disturb the surface of the road. And then once it was dry, I sanded that again to make it nice and smooth. And then I gave it a coat of black acrylic paint just to kind of give it the road a black surface. And I was hoping that I could leave it at that. So what I did then, once that paint had dried, I kind of set my houses back in place and carefully traced the outside of the houses onto the plaster around there so I knew exactly what the footprint of the house was and decided where I wanted to have grass or a lawn. And then the places where the houses weren't, once I lifted the houses out, I just carefully used a brush and used some acrylic matte medium as a glue, put that down and used my static grass applicator to put down some grass. And I think the grass that I used was a 3mm length. Could be a little bit shorter for this, but it's okay. It's at the back. It went down, stood up pretty nicely, so it does look like a half decent lawn. I put that down, let that dry, and then vacuumed up all the loose bits that it kind of scattered onto the tracks and where the houses were going to be and things like that. At that point, I could put the houses back in place just to see how they were going to look. And there was a section on the back on the other side of the track. I ballasted a section of track, the siding that kind of goes in along the back wall over here. I ballasted the last couple feet of it, or last foot and a half of it. And then there was a section on the back where the backdrop comes down and doesn't quite meet the layout. So I kind of painted over that in dark green to kind of disguise it. And then I used some longer static grass, like 12mm static grass, and just put some matte medium down and just put clumps of that static grass down along that wall to disguise that border between the background and the layout itself. The next step for me was I wanted some street lights, and I had bought ages ago some of those cheap little street lights, the same things that you can see in front of this building that I used around my train station. I had some more of those. Now, when I bought them, they were kind of a cool white, and it's okay, but I wanted a bit of a warmer and dimmer look for around the houses. So I painted the white lampshades yellow with some old Floquil paint I had, and it just kind of blocks some of the light and warms up the light that comes through. So I put 3 of those in, just drilled holes through the foam, pushed the wires through hanging down below the layout. And I also added one more kind of a street light, the same kind that I've used in my lumber yard and in my rail yard. Added that at the end of the gas station lot. And then crawled underneath the layout this morning and soldered them all together, all 4 lights in series, and connected them to my 12-volt light power supply. I have a little terminal strip underneath there that I'm running all the lighting for this town out of. So it's right there underneath, right about here underneath the layout. So I just ran the wires to that, connected those, and flipped it on, and everything works. The last thing I did today, well, there's a couple things I did. Then the gas pumps, I painted those glued those together yesterday and then painted them today. There's still a little bit of detail to put on them, but I got to wait for the paint to dry a little bit more before I can do that. And then I replanted some trees. Now, I don't think I actually recorded the video of me putting the trees in, but it was just a matter of figuring out where I wanted them, poking a hole in the foam and pushing the tree back into place. And so I have the trees in place. All the lights are reconnected for the town. I still need to ballast the tracks. I need to work on the railroad crossing. I actually have some flashing crossing lights that I want to put in into that crossing, but that'll be a future project. But at this point, kind of everything on that side of the tracks, other than the few little details, there's grass, there's road. I may paint some lines on the road still, but I'll probably do that when I work on the crossing so I can paint the lines on both sides at the same time. But all of the stuff that's really difficult to reach back there is now at least pretty much done. I don't know if you can really tell on the video, but from here up to this little light that I have here, that's only a 12-inch gap. And then when I'm leading back into that corner, it's very awkward to work back there. And so it's probably good that I did it over a month, because I found even yesterday when I was doing the static grass along that wall, working on that for 10 or 15 minutes made my back hurt. So it's just very awkward back there. Now, that scene back there is very much going to be a background scene, because I got my Kentucky Fried Chicken to go back in here, and there's other town buildings going to be in here and up here. So once all of this town is developed, that whole back corner is going to be very much a background scene, but I do want it to look good. So at this point, I've got lights in there. I've got some people. I'll probably put a couple more people into the scene still, but I've got the roadways, I've got grass, I've got some trees around the houses. Probably need to add a few more little details, but I'll look at that in the next few days. But at this point, I just wanted to kind of update you that yes, I am doing things here. It's been a while since I put out a video, but it is summertime and I've got a lot of other things going on. But little update. This is what I've been working on in the past month whenever I had time. As always, thank you for watching. See you next time.